Hi there, this is Two Legs Better, and I'm going to talk about Ohio State football. And I just recently got this gear. I have a friend came from Columbus, Ohio, and this hat was brought to me, so I'm showing it off here. I finally got some gear. I do have other gears. I have a ball, and you know, with signatures on that. But I'll show them to you later. But today, excuse me, I want to talk about the hiring of coordinators. This is intriguing to me, okay, because Ohio State fans are very passionate, like any fan base, right? But the recent hire of Arthur Smith was really interesting because some fans really, really hate it, and some fans have reservations, but um, hold an attitude of a wait and see and can see the merit in that. It's just fascinating to me because you think about it's $1 billion enterprise basically what Ryan Day is running, so he needs to make the tough decisions. Now the thing is, in football world, the decisions, whether it's good or bad decision, it's relatively easy to see because this time next year we'll be able to sit here and review whether this is a good hire or not. Like Matt Patricia, last year when Matt Patricia were hired, there were mixed opinions on that too. And then now you look back, it's far and away the best defense has been for the Buckeyes in the past year. So it clearly is a successful hire, right? But now my point is this. My point is, a hire is good or bad, you can't know it beforehand. It's like today, we can all sit here and share our opinion on whether it's going to be a good hire or bad in regarding Arthur Smith. There's no way we know, but we do have ability to review, to look at how the decisions are made, whether that would make sense. And that I want to review go back to the whole history since Ryan Day took over in 2019. His decisions on coordinators, some I agree, some I didn't, and I'll let you know why, and we'll see. Okay, we'll see. Now, the first I want to show you is Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley was the first defensive coordinator, and you can see here that's 2019. It's the co-defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach, and he had a history with Ryan Day, and he's from NFL. Ryan Day himself is has an NFL background as well, right? So Jeff Hafley came from I think he was with San Francisco 49ers at the time. Yes, defensive backs coach. So it was like a promotion. He became offensive coordinator, although it's a college team, right? From the pros back down to the college team. It was when that was hired, I was immediately on board because a lot of people like him. He was young and upcoming. He had a history with Ryan Day. Clearly, they worked very well together. So it was really good, and he focused on defensive backs. Back then, at the time, defensive backs at Ohio State, the play, we were known as recruiting the top players in the country, but the development were a little bit questionable. Too many passing interference calls. However, all those things together, you look at the hire, you can say one, he's from the higher level, and two, it's a promotion. So for him, it's a promotion. It's a stepping stone, basically, if he wants to go up in the coaching ladder, and that's a good thing. So it's good choice for him. But that's a little bit different from the other ones, though. So I'm going to explain why later. But I liked this hire, and it turned out to be good. And 2019, Ohio State had one of the best defenses in the country, but not the best. But it was clearly improvement. Clearly improvement. Remember James Knowles, later I'll talk about him. It took years for his system to work, but for Jeff Hafley, it was 1 year, it was pretty good. So I was really, really expecting 2020 because that would be better. But COVID happens, and he took a job at Boston College, and you just can't blame him for that. Whatever it is, it's just 1 year. So if you grade Ryan Day on his hiring, I would give it I don't know. It's hard to give a grade, but it's clearly a very good hire. It didn't stick. So I guess that's the negative. So this is Jeff Hafley. So the first defensive coordinator he hired. And then the next one is Kerry Coombs. Kerry Coombs is an interesting thing because he was the strength and conditioning coach and quarterback coach for Ohio State. He worked on Ohio State coaching staff for years, and then he went to Titans, Tennessee Titans, with Mike Variable for 1 year, and then then he came back. He was hired as the defensive coordinator. Now here's the thing. So at the Tennessee Titans, he was a DB coach, and he was let go in 1 year. So I wouldn't call that a huge success. Okay, he wasn't. He was a high school coach before that. He was loved by the players, and he clearly was okay. It was good with the DBs, but this is the most questionable hire I have seen Ryan Day made. This is the one I disagree the most. When I saw that, I was like, whoa, I just don't think it's going to work out. But in Ryan Day's defense, I know I'm a homer, right? I like Ryan Day. I like him. I love my Buckeyes, In Ryan Day's defense is this. First, Kerry Coombs is great in recruiting. He connects with high school kids very, very well. And he was beloved by the Ohio State fans. If you compare, say, Kerry Coombs with Arthur Smith, you don't hear much moaning about hiring him, but now you hear a lot of, very, very, some words about Arthur Smith. Why? Just because Arthur Smith had no connections with the Buckeyes, and Kerry Coombs did. But in terms of the performance and the abilities, it's a no-brainer. Kerry Coombs wasn't qualified. He never had a real defensive coordinator role. So, but because he's loved by the Buckeye Nation, so I think he kind of deserved a chance. You never know. Maybe he will surprise someone, but. If you ask me back then, I still remember the feelings there. I would say 40% chance he's going to be successful. That's like my I think he's more likely to fail than to succeed. But I also see why Ryan Day did that. I think that was before the evil Ryan Day. Ryan Day was still trying to kind of, because he doesn't have a strong root in the Buckeye Nation. And I think in a way he's trying to please the Buckeye Nation, the fans, the people there. He bringing coaches to people love. So whatever because those are all speculation on my part. So whatever the reason was, Ryan Day chose to hire him, which turned out to be a disaster. Really, really a disaster in these 2 years. Lost the game and lost many things, and of course there are other reasons. All the. Whatever, it just didn't work out. So this is, if you ask me, this is the worst hire by Ryan Day. Okay. Now, after Kerry Coombs, by the way, now he's hated. He's hated because he went to he went north. Anywho, so now the next one is Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles, when he was hired, he was known for his creativity. He's like a evil genius, but he did more with less at Oklahoma State, and so a lot of people liked that this hire. I was okay with this. I thought it was. I can see that. I can see how it works, but a lot of people were talking about his system needs time to work. And then over the time, you can see that his connection with people is a little bit with players. So let's just say he's not a people person. He's more like an introvert genius. I just lock my door for a day and then come out and give you something brilliant, and you just need to execute it. You just need to do it. Well, but those are college kids. They are not really professionals. But overall, I still think this is a good hire. Clearly a much better hire than Kerry Coombs. Kerry Coombs was never like one of the top defensive coordinators in the country like Jim Knowles was. And Jim Knowles worked for the Buckeyes for 3 years. And then by year 3, his system eventually finally worked, and the Buckeyes got the national championship. So we thank him for that. But then he left. Okay, let's just say I didn't shed a tear when he left. It's not just the way he left, but the guy is an employee basically. He comes here to work and he wants money and he wants compensation and recognition, and then just find some place better with more money. And I don't blame him, and I thank him for the championship, but I don't lose many tears over that. I mean, Matt Patricia is different. Matt Patricia, if he leaves, I would be really, really, I wouldn't call it devastating. Brian Hartline left. I'm sure if he leaves, that will be for his own benefit. He makes a good decision for his own life. There's nothing you can blame for that. But I surely going to miss him. By the way, I also miss Jeff Hafley. Just imagine if Hafley stays for two or three more years, what would happen to Ryan Day's legacy? But this is life, so you can't really blame that. And besides Jeff Hafley, I didn't really follow him that much. I didn't know him that much. I think he's also a professional, more like a professional. But Matt P is different. Matt P connects with the players really, really well, and his personality is, to me, is a little bit quirky, I guess, a little bit nerdy, but also very pleasant. I can see when he laughs, it's a genuine laugh, and it's very, very infectious. You see him laugh. Oh, well, I should jump to that, right? I should go there. So this is Matt Patricia. However, I want the Buckeye Nation to be honest with yourself. Okay, last year when the news broke out that he was going to be hired, what was your reaction? How many of you were thinking this is going to be a home run? I would say not much. I follow the online forums all the time, and a lot of people are skeptical at best, and mostly because he was at New England. But New England is like a mystique, right? It's a mystery. Who was responsible for the success? Was it Tom Brady? Was it Bill Belichick? Was it maybe Charlie Weiss? I don't know. So Matt Patricia, is he really a genius like some people think he is, or he's just riding the wave, because Belichick is the defensive genius, right? But now look what he's doing at North Carolina. But this is the thing. I didn't know much about Matt Patricia before that, right? So, but I want to know. So what do I know? Well, how did I find out? I'm a researcher myself. So I go to the source. I go to the first-hand knowledge first. So I went to see his interviews. What I saw was a nerd who is so passionate about the game. You ask him other questions, he's like, yeah, I'll try to answer that, But you ask a football question, see his eyes light up, and he's just talk about it in great details. And I'm a teacher myself. Only the greatest ones has the ability to explain something in plain language for people to understand. Remember, these are complex issues, and I try to explain complex issues to people all the time. I have difficulties a lot, So when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is a great teacher. He's going to do great, do wonders to these players. And so that's the first one of, your source of information. That's firsthand. And then the second one is, how did the former players react to that? People like Bobby Carpenter. Bobby Carpenter is a guy to me that he doesn't bullshit. He really doesn't. He doesn't really sugarcoat, and he doesn't bullshit. And he knows his stuff. Okay, I'm not saying he's infallible, but he's he certainly has. Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. But I trust him more than a random poster on the internet. So I saw his reactions. He said, he worked with Matt P before, and he also talked to other people who had connections with Matt, and all the responses were positive. And then the third source of information are the teachers and coaches. The coaches, clearly, they all do coaches talk, right? It's okay. We all work fine. There's no conflict. They say that to about everybody, right? Even Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson. But they did say good things about Patricia, and then the players. The players, they just say, I talked to him like in 1 day and 2 days, more than the 2 years I was with the previous coordinator. That is something, the attention alone. Because these are like 18, 19, 20-year-old. You give them attention, that's all they need. Give them a hug and then shake hands after a little bit, how's your day? That means a lot to them, these young players, because they don't know who they are. They don't have their names established yet. And now a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator paying attention to me, I want to work hard for the guy. So those things really translate. So it really didn't take long for the Buckeye Nation to change their views on Matt Patricia. During the summer, during the spring ball, people already see the great things, and they already changed. Besides all the criticism on Matt P. Yeah, maybe something happened 20 years ago, or was his success really success? How was he pretentious with the pencil? Who gives a shit? Whatever. But one thing I want to point out is this: when Ryan Day hired Matt Patricia, it was a risky move. Remember, but because Matt Patricia was basically a failure in the NFL and nobody won. I'm not joking, okay? He failed at Detroit, and we kind of don't care, but he failed at Detroit. But then he was working on the Eagles staff as a kind of consulting role. And even the Eagles didn't even consider him as a defensive coordinator. You would think a defensive genius would be a hot commodity in the market, right? Every team would want him. You think about Chip Kelly, 1 year at Ohio State, then he was hired back to the NFL. So when you just look at it from the surface, nobody in the NFL wanted Matt Patricia. Could be a red flag, right? I mean, you think about, oh yeah, wow, what's wrong with the guy? There must be something wrong with the guy, right? But then Ryan Day took the chance to hire him. To be fair, Ryan can do that because he just got his national championship. He's riding high. Nobody can really question his decision at the time because he has done that. So, and I applaud that. I think we talk about trust the coach all the time. I trust Ryan Day. I really trust Ryan Day. I'm not saying all his decisions were good, like the Kerry Coon decision. That's I think it's a blunder. It's really a terrible decision. And there's another bad decision I'm going to talk about. But then he hired Matt Patricia, and now after 1 year, the Buckeye Nation is like, oh, Matt Patricia, don't leave. Look at your children. They are going to school. They're enjoying the Columbus. It's kind of funny how much difference 1 year makes, right? So now that's the defensive coordinators for Ryan Day's tenure. So that's 1 out of 4 is a failure, Kerry Coombs, I really consider that a failure. And one is a home run, that's Matt Patricia. And the other two were, Jim knows it did take years, 3 years for his system to work. So it's still a success and also resulted in the national championship. So it was a success, but I wouldn't call it a home run because of all the other things, all the tensions or the other things, affecting the chemistry of the coaching staff, all these things. But so that's Combs. Jeff Hafley, I would call it a home run if he can stay for one more year. One more year, I would call it a home run, but it just didn't work out. So, but anyway, 3 out of 4 was a good hire. That's a 75% hit rate. That's great. That's really great. Besides, I even for the bad hire, I don't question his rationale for hiring Kerry Coombs at the time. So that's the defensive side. Now let's move on to the offensive side. So the offensive coordinator, the first one offensive coordinator for Ryan Day was Kevin Wilson. Remember, Kevin Wilson was fired by Indiana. He was fired by Indiana for mistreating the players. Interesting. Here's kind of the point. A lot of times, these are damaged goods, right? You think about Matt Patricia. Would he take Ohio State defensive coordinator job right after his Super Bowl seasons? He's riding high in the NFL, the top of the profession, and then just choose the Buckeyes. I don't care how big a homer you are. You wouldn't say that, right? This is college. You're Ohio State, but so what? They only took the job kind of because they are damaged. He took a swing at a head coaching job in the NFL and it didn't work out. And then it's almost like nobody wanted him. And, so, wow, then the Buckeyes, it's a good chance and it's a great job. So he took that. Kevin Wilson is the same. He was a head coach. You think if he's Kurt Cincinnati, would you take offensive coordinator at Ohio State? I don't care. You're not going to do that, right? So you only do that if you fail. You fail at Indiana. You got a 6-6 record, and you were in the investigation. You are in trouble. You're lucky to have a job. And then Ryan Day, not Ryan Day actually, it was Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer took him in as offensive coordinator together with Ryan Day. And Ryan clearly worked well with him, so Ryan retained him as the offensive coordinator. And that happened to be the time Ohio State had the best offenses. So it was great. It really worked out for them. So you can see here. So Kevin Wilson was the coordinator for 5 years between 2017 to 2022. That's 6 years. And 3 of those were with Ryan Day. And then he took a head coaching job at Tulsa and left. And, again, you can't blame that, but blame him for that. Or, Kevin Wilson was okay. I don't have a particular opinion on the guy, but I think he did a very, very good job there. So that's Kevin Wilson. And after Kevin Wilson, the next offensive coordinator actually is Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline is a darling of Columbus, Ohio. Okay, I watched him play in college. I literally watched him. I think his signature is on this ball. Well, but then he played at Miami Dolphins for several years, and then came back to Columbus and then get on the staff. And then he quickly became the best recruiters in the country, the best recruiters Ohio State has ever seen, maybe for the whole country as well. His recruiting of the wide receivers is off the charts, all those 5 stars that he piled. And the Buckeyes just loved him. And in the 3 years ago, if you ask what's the worst fear for the Buckeye fans, that would be to lose Brian Hartline. people were thinking about, oh, we can't lose him, and when, we should wait for him to become the next Ohio State coach. He's a wide receiver coach, okay? He never really called plays. He wasn't an offensive coordinator. But you can't lose him, right? It's like that's 2022, so I think Ryan Day is still the good Ryan Day, the kind Ryan Day. He's still a pleaser type. So he's like, okay, we give him a chance. How hard could it be? Because he himself is an offensive genius. So I just need somebody to help me, which turned out to be a mistake because Brian Hartline wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to be an offensive coordinator. So Ryan Day had to stick his role as the play caller, and he can't get to the booth. He had to stay on the ground, and he also had to juggle all the things happening to college football. So it turned out it affected the offensive production significantly. And then 2024, the next year, in came Chip Kelly, because Ryan Day saw that Hartline wasn't ready and he had to find someone. Then he just I don't know who contacted who, because Chip Kelly. Now you look at Chip Kelly. Okay, I was talking about you have to be kind of a failure in order to land an Ohio State job. No, just that's not what I'm saying. But you get the idea though, right? Chip Kelly was successful at Oregon. Excuse me. Then he came to as head coach at NFL at Philadelphia Eagles, and clearly whatever you call that. And then he went to San Francisco, but then he was fired there. And so he's considered a failure at a National Football League, basically, as a head coach. Then he took over the job at UCLA, and then he just lost the interest in coaching as head coach, because there's so many things, so many changes, whatever. So I don't blame him. And he just want to coach ball. He want to have fun. All right. Though I suspect he contacted Day first. But of course, Day welcomed him with open arms, and it turned out to be great. We still lost 2 games, but it was the offense was good. So he came to Ohio State. I consider this another like a home run hire. It's not like he's perfect. He wasn't perfect, but the results were okay. It was not more than okay actually, but he did lose 2 games though in the year, including the game against the team up north. But he also helped won the national championship. So the point is, this is a great hire, but it only lasted 1 year. So he bolted to Raiders after the 1 year. And we all saw how that turned out, right? He was fired before the end of the season. But now I don't know whether he would be interested in coming back to Columbus. But it seems like Ryan Day didn't really pursue him either. So whatever that case was, right? But after he left, and then what do? The thing, it's like it's between Brian Hartline and hiring somebody from outside, okay? But you got to consider Brian Hartline at the point of his career, he can only go up. He has been the co-offensive coordinator for many years for the Buckeyes, so his pay is already there. It's almost like he's ready to step up. So I think Ryan Day gave him another chance. So basically claiming that he was ready to be the play caller, and then 2025 happened. This is the second questionable hire. The 2 times he tried to hire Brian Hartline as the main offensive coordinator, the 2 times, mainly because Brian Hartline was a brilliant recruiter, outstanding wide receiver coach, but he didn't really have the offensive coordinator experience there. So at least you don't know how he would perform. You think about it, this last season, the 2025 season. Sure, they won all 12 games in the regular season, right? And they lost twice, 2 games, one to the eventual national champion, one to the eventual first runner-up. So on surface, it's success, right? It's good, but you got to say most of that is because of the defense. The defense has been stellar, okay, and the offense really let people down. But not just that, not just that Brian Hartline wasn't experienced, but also there were too many distractions. He was hired away in the middle of the week that leading to the Big Ten championship game, and then he had to fly to Florida to juggle his responsibilities as Ohio State's offensive coordinator, preparing for college football playoff games and head coaching for University of South Florida. And that's a huge responsibility. And then Ryan Day had to demote him, basically saying he's not going to call the plays, and I will call the play together with But it just didn't work out. You think about the offensive production. In the Big Ten championship game and in the college football playoff game against Miami, it were really, really bad. They were really, really bad. So this turned out to be bad. But can you blame Ryan Day for the hire? What do? You hire someone, say, Brian Hartline, you have no chance. Then everybody would come out and crying, Brian, you drive our beloved Hartline away. Right? I mean, besides, I think Ryan Day probably had more confidence, working with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly basically groomed Brian Hartline, and it's like he probably learned something. And to be fair, I would say at least the regular season, the offensive coordinating job was okay. It was definitely satisfactory, if not stellar. It's just the playoffs are different. The playoffs, people have all kinds of tricky things. You think about last year when Ohio State won, the play callings, they were different. A lot of the plays, you never saw them run during the season. And it took the opponents by surprise as well. So this is a Brian Hartline. And now that brings to the man of the hour, Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith, he you probably already kind of know his, if you pay attention, he was the coordinator for Titans, working with Michael Verrivo, and the offense was actually pretty good, top 5 in the league back then. And then because he performed so well, he was hired by Atlanta as a head coach in 2020. He spent 3 seasons there, and it all went 7-10, so it was subpar. Then he was let go. He was fired. But of course, you have different ways to look at that. So some people would say, he just sucked. He wasn't good, especially on the offensive side. Although he has been so-called offensive, maybe not a super genius, but definitely on the good side. But he mismanaged all these things. But the defenders of him would say he didn't have all the recipes. The quarterback was subpar, and the wide receivers were not there, and then he was hired as offensive coordinator by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So last year, the Steelers, I watched all their game highlights. Okay, I didn't really follow them closely, but they were not really good. You have a Rodgers, who is basically old man now. He's slow, and then the team, and the defense was still good, and the offense was, but was it his fault? So now that it's a mixed, it depends on how you see it, right? You can, if you are a hater of Arthur Smith, you come out and say he sucks. His offense were never good. If you are on his side, you would say, well, he did try. He did make more out of less, because he didn't really have all the horses to run, And now, when he comes to Ohio State, that would be different. So it depends on which side you see. By the way, I'm here. I'm not trying to convince anybody to change their view. I don't think I can. I don't think anybody can, because you have your view set up, and it doesn't matter what I say. You will stick to your own view, and so that's not my intention. My intention is to focus on the decision by Ryan Day. Is that a good decision on his part? Would it work out? That is, there are 2 points I want to make. First is, it's really not fair to judge a decision on the outcome. You can make a good decision, but the outcome could be bad. You think about some of the things. You think about saying, remember in Super Bowl when Pete Carroll asked Russell Wilson to throw the ball at the 1 yard line instead of give it to to the running back, right? It's everybody was mad at him, but imagine if he caught New England off guard and scored on that play, he would be considered genius, right? So is the decision itself a bad decision? Is the outcome bad? Yes, the outcome definitely wasn't favorable for the decision, but should the decision be judged based on the outcome, right? I guess. But so that's the number one point. My point is, a decision is a decision. Because any decision could be good or could be bad. So you judge it. You should judge it based on the probability of success rather than the eventual outcome. But the second point is, in sports, there's no second guessing. You can make all the best decisions, but if the outcome is not good, the decision wasn't good. You're going to be blamed for that, and that's just the matter of the beast, right? So Ryan Day, he will be judged on this 1 year later, 1 year next year. If the offense performs, it will be a genius move, right? If the offense didn't, then it will be, all the haters will come out, all the lunatic fringe will come out, and. But to me, I look at Ryan Day's decision. I think this is a genius move. I think it's a great move. Remember, this guy actually is in a much better condition, much better situation than Matt Patricia. He reportedly is interviewing for multiple offensive coordinator and head coaching job in the NFL still. So the NFL still respect him, still think he can be successful, at least considering him in that group. So he's like, he has options, and he chose Ohio State. Matt Patricia basically had no options. Nobody wanted him, and he picked Ohio State. You could just say, you can say whatever you want, So the situation is different. And Arthur Smith, his strength, he's known for his aggressiveness and creativity. I know you probably don't agree with me, some of you at least. And he also focused on the running a lot. Chip Kelly was considered a running game guru as well. So, and Ryan Day is considered a genius on the passing side. So if I'm Ryan Day, I find, I hire someone coming from the NFL, so has the pedigree and the reputation and the lure to recruit, and the ability to be the offensive coordinator. He has been the coordinator for many, many years. So what to expect. He can only elevate. You compare him to Brian Hartline, it's certainly going to be an upgrade. How much? I don't know, but it certainly will be. So for Arthur Smith, my general vibe at this point is good. But like I said, I try to get the different source of information, like Matt Patricia. but I couldn't find his interviews. I know he has interviews for the NFL and stuff, but I don't want to go there. Um, so we'll see. We'll see in the spring when he meets the media. What would they say? And then I try to look for the former players and all the people who covering the sports. Bobby Carpenter, like I said, I respect his opinion, and he didn't really have direct experience with him, but he comes out and say he has trusted friends who had direct experience with Arthur Smith, who are zealous about the hire and basically saying it's going to be great. I like that. I like that. I think, and also multiple people come out and say, he's a genius in offense, and he's even a better person. I like that as well. So those things should work well. And also, he's not going to be handling the recruiting based on the current structure, because there are already 10 coaches on the staff that will be handling recruiting. So, but his NFL background will be a big attraction to the recruits and transfers. So, and also he would be 100% devoted to the scheme things, and the offensive coordinator job is less than the head coaching job. So I think this is a genius move, and this is a great situation. I would expect immediate success, kind of like Matt Patricia. But what do I know, right? I'm just a fan in New Zealand, it's the other side of the world, and just whatever. But I'm more than okay with the hire. I think it's a genius move. I'm enthusiastic for the new season, and I think it's it might surprise people. And you look at the coaching staff here. Both coordinators have a strong, not just any, strong NFL background. Both head coach and position coach, coordinators background, and they are here to help Ryan Day. And Nick Saban did the same thing at Alabama. It worked really well for him, so I expect nothing less. So, and at Ohio State, he has the horses, right? He has Julian Sain, the Heisman finalist quarterback, and the third year, and then he has the number one, the best player in college football, that's J.J. Smith, and all the wide receiver corps, and and so it's a great team. And besides, he's not playing against other NFL teams, right? He's playing against the Big Ten teams, and so I think this is a genius move on Ryan Day's part. But what the outcome will be, we'll see. Okay, so this is 2x better. So I just spent the time talking about Ryan Day from the hiring perspective, from decision perspective, and so please subscribe, and I will post more videos on this topic in the future. And my background is in psychology and decision making, so I will, for all the things I comment on, either is American football or badminton or whatever, it has a spin from the decision making and perspective. So I hope you find that helpful. And so if you do, please subscribe, and so you can come back later. And so in the meantime, I say so long from